Just 2 years into his professional rap career, the Game was involved in a highly publicized beef that resulted in violence in the form of a shootout between the Game's camp and 50 Cent's camp in 2005. While the Game's most infamous beef was with 50 Cent, one of his most notable feuds arose when he seemingly had it out for 50's close friend and collaborator, Eminem. The origin of the friction was a bit odd, as for nearly 2 decades it had seemed that the two rappers did not have any real issue between them. Their relationship began in the mid-2000s when Game's music career was about to take off. Initially, there were no issues between the two MCs, as Game was a new signee to Dr. Dre's Aftermath Entertainment in 2003. Under the suggestion of label executives Jimmy Iovine and Dre himself, Game was put together with 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, and Tony Ayo as the 5th member of G-Unit to build a buzz around Game. The move also helped maintain public interest in G-Unit, which was red hot at the time due to 50 Cent's highly successful debut album. Adding Game, who was a West Coast artist, meant the group had representation from various parts of the United States, with Young Buck being from the South and the other remaining members being representatives from the East Coast. In 2005, the Game's debut album, The Documentary, was released to overwhelming success. It was largely produced by Dr. Dre, whom Game looked up to as a mentor and a West Coast hip-hop legend. The Game worked with the who's who's of producers such as Kanye West, Just Blaze, High Tech, and Timbaland. Eminem, who was becoming a formidable producer in his own right, was also tagged to work on the album. So, Game flew to Detroit to work face-to-face with M, who contributed as both a producer and performer on the project. Several songs were conceived in the process, but they ultimately selected We Ain't. In the song, Game complimented Eminem by rapping, "Lo, get Dre on the phone quick. Tell him M just killed me on my own shit." He further paid homage to M in the song by rapping his first verse in the same cadence that M did in his 2000 single, The Way I Am. Just by listening to the song, it was clear that Game held M in high regard as a rapper. At the time, Eminem was already a megastar thanks to a string of multi-platinum albums, a leading role in the successful movie 8 Mile, and an Academy Award for his song Lose Yourself. With the label, high-profile collaborators, and a huge promotional machine behind him, the Game was lined up for massive success, which manifested once the album dropped. The documentary went several times platinum and was a major contributor in repopularizing the West Coast hip-hop sound, which took a slump after Death Row Records slumped in the late 90s. However, in the course of things, 50 Cent's nemesis Ja Rule released a song titled New York, which featured Jadakiss and Fat Joe. By association, Jadakiss and Fat Joe became embroiled in the 50 Cent Ja Rule beef, but the Game was not willing to participate in the beef as he had no issues with Jada and Joe. This created tension in G-Unit, which ultimately resulted in the Game being kicked out of the group and subsequently cutting ties with some of its affiliates, including Eminem. The split with G-Unit left bitterness between the Game and 50 Cent and resulted in a number of diss tracks being released by both parties. They often spoke about the situation in public, with one of 50's gripes being that he contributed to 6 songs but felt the Game lacked gratitude, further implying that the documentary was successful because of 50's work. While all of this was happening, Eminem did not jump into the beef in 50's defense, nor did the Game mention Eminem in a disrespectful manner. The Game spoke highly of him and often referred to him as the greatest rapper of all time, and spoke about how other rappers avoided having issues with him out of fear of creating problems for themselves. In 2007, M was featured on Pistol Poppin' by Cassius, in which he rapped, "Fifth, please tell him right now how hard it has been for me to try and stay out of it, but they just won't quit running their mouth," which may have implied the G-Unit Game beef. However, at the time, 50 Cent had a number of beefs with various artists, so there's no way of telling who M was referring to in that line. In 2008, the Game was set to release his 3rd studio album titled LAX. Prior to its release, an early version of the song My Life was leaked. The track was seen as a diss song to Eminem, as it contained a reference to Eminem and his deceased friend Proof. The Game rapped, "And all the pictures of me and M, I burned them, so it ain't no proof that I ever walked through 8 Mile, and since it ain't no proof, I never walked through 8 Mile." These lines were replaced, and Game later confirmed that he didn't mean any disrespect in the lines, and he decided to change them as he knew they may have been misinterpreted as such by consumers. The following year, in 2009, the Game released Better Days, Pain Inside, in which he rapped, "I'm just driving and thinking how I survived here, and I ain't seen Dre and Eminem in 5 years. That sounds shady, right? I live a crazy life," which would line up to around the time he released his debut album, The Documentary. In 2010, after Eminem released his 7th album titled Recovery, the Game was asked his opinion in an interview. He showered it with praise, calling it a classic, and showed reverence to Eminem, saying,
"If you notice in hip hop, Eminem is the only rapper that that nobody ever wants a problem with, including myself, man. Eminem is like the most lyrically insane. Even when I was going at 50 and, me and Dre wasn't seeing eye to eye, man, I stayed away from the white dude, because he a problem. You know what I'm saying? I understand it. You know what I'm saying? Like Eminem, I don't think it's a rapper he won't slay. And you don't even want a war with Eminem. He crazy.
When asked what he would have done if Eminem were to beef with him, Game said he would run. He acknowledged that beefing with Eminem was potentially dangerous for his rap career, and avoiding friction was in most rappers' best interest. In a 2019 interview with Hip Hop DX, The Game confirmed that the last time he had spoken with Eminem was when he was discussing the song We Ain't for his documentary album.
The last conversation I had with him was like where I want to position the verses for We Ain't on the documentary. And I mean, it's not like you just talk to Eminem every day. Like M does his own I'm pretty sure that like nobody talks to him every day except probably like Haley or something.
In the same interview, The Game confirmed that his relationship with Dr. Dre was in a good place and they were on speaking terms. As the years passed and the 50 Cent and The Game situation calmed down a little, Game often still showed respect to M. However, in 2022, The Game appeared in an episode of Drink Champs, which caused a buzz due to several controversial statements he made during the podcast. Game expressed that he was a better MC than Eminem, stating,
I like Eminem. He's one of the fucking good MCs, great MCs. He raps fella. And I used to think Eminem was better than me. He's not.
This statement was hot on the heels of Dr. Dre performing at the Super Bowl 56 halftime show alongside Eminem, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, and Anderson .Paak. The show took place in Game's home state of California, and his omission from performing left a bitter taste in his mouth, which triggered him to speak against Eminem and also Dr. Dre, expressing that Kanye West did more for Game in 2 weeks than Dr. Dre ever did. In the same interview, he justified that he was a dangerous artist, likely due to his real-life gangster roots, and as such, was likely not viewed as a suitable person to participate in a large televised show like the Super Bowl halftime show. The Game also challenged Eminem to a versus battle where they'd go track for track to establish who was the superior MC between them, but M neither acknowledged nor responded to the challenge. In the course of the interview, Game clarified that his challenge to Eminem was in the same spirit as the Boogie Down Productions and MC Shan beef that took place in the late 80s and ended amicably as it was in the spirit of competition. Various hip-hop fans and personalities spoke on Game's comments, with many pointing out that he sounded bitter and hurt for not being included in the Super Bowl show, hence his harsh comments towards Dr. Dre. The comments were seen by many as the words of an ungrateful man because Dre's production and affiliation with the Game in his early years was a major proponent for the commercial and critical success of the documentary. Even in later years, Game regularly referenced Dr. Dre, most notably in his second studio album, The Doctor's Advocate, which was a reference to his relationship with Dre. While appearing on the All the Smoke podcast in May 2022, The Game asked the host,
when have you ever heard an Eminem song in the club? When have you ever heard this shit in the locker room when they was like, yo, this is the new M, I'm about to go crazy out here when they do this tip off, nigga?
In August 2023, Shady Records artist Easy Mill released the song titled Realist, which featured Eminem. In the song, M responded to several of his detractors, including Game, rapping, and that is the only retort, is I'm not played in the clubs. Motherfucker put a cork in it. Only reason they still play your shit in the clubs is cause you still perform in them. I am a guest in this house, but I turned this bitch to a mansion. Later in 2022, The Game released his 10th studio album, Drillmatic, Heart vs. Mind, which featured a song titled The Black Slim Shady. In the song, Game directly addressed and dissed Eminem. He imitated M's style of rapping, implied that he abducted M's daughter Haley, referenced Eminem's relationship with his ex-wife Kim Mathers, and harped on M's race, implying that M's success was largely due to his skin color, which is something that M himself acknowledged multiple times in the early part of his career. In the song, Game rapped, and the biggest rapper in Detroit, that award is Sean Don. The line was an attempt at getting under M's skin by claiming that Big Sean was the best rapper in M's hometown of Detroit, Michigan. Game continued, I never heard you in a club, I never heard you in a bar. 11 albums and 10 never got played inside of my car. I'd rather listen to Snitch 9 like 69 times and participate in 69s with 69 nuns than listen to you. At that point, releasing a diss track was part of Game's promotional strategy, as he knew it would draw attention to his albums. However, the fact that he addressed Eminem directly after years of maintaining his distance was not expected. Eminem did not respond despite being taunted by the Game in various interviews on his promotional run. The main narrative Game continued to push was that Eminem was not a better rapper than him, as there was no personal issue between the two MCs. Then later that year, Game's manager, Wack 100, appeared on the No Jumper podcast, where he stated that the Game did not hate Eminem or any rapper. He added that simply Game had a point he wanted to get across.
I don't think he hates him at all. I think he had a point he wanted to get across, and I think that's what it is.
While appearing on the Rap Radar podcast, Game explained that he went at Eminem just because nobody does. He explained that although he admired Eminem's music and it had an impact on his life when he was younger, hip-hop was in a boring place and required excitement and competition. He disliked that some of the rap beefs at the time resulted in people getting killed and expressed dislike for the notion that all rap beefs must end in violence. Game bigged himself up by saying,
right now, like, you know, lyrically, outside of like M or Kendrick or Cole or, you know, one of these super lyrical, it's like, I don't think nobody like lyrically could really go with me.
So Game's diss towards Eminem was in line with hip-hop's competitive nature. In the same podcast, Game explained that his fallout with Eminem happened due to the 50 Cent Game beef, which made M side with his artist and friend 50 Cent. It was, however, evident that Game sought M's acknowledgement and approval as an MC. In a 2023 Vlad TV interview, the Game admitted that his attacks on M was due to him being mad at Dr. Dre, whom he knew could not out-rap him as Dre often had his lyrics written for him by others. He also mentioned that he couldn't challenge 50 Cent because Game felt 50 was not as good a rapper as him, so he concluded that going after M would be the next best thing. He told Vlad,
you know, throwing shots at Eminem and beefing with Eminem, it was just me being upset with Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre can't out-rap me, so I just went at M, just because that's just how I get sometimes. But it's always competitive. It ain't like I'm gonna see M and be like, what's up now? You know what I'm saying? It's M.
Then, in a 2024 Vlad TV interview, Game stated that Eminem had respect for him and his writing ability.
Eminem respects me at the end of the day. If you ask him, and he's going to be honest, he's going to tell you that he respects me and my pen game. He knows what I'm capable of, and that is what it is. Dr. Umar had an opinion, and I don't disrespect it, but I don't agree.
After all was said and done, the Game looked at Eminem as a formidable MC who was worth going against simply for competitive reasons. However, Eminem did little to respond and made the situation rather one-sided. Feuds were one of the Game's main objectives for keeping his name buzzing, much like M himself and 50 Cent. However, Game's decision to keep sending shots at M made him seem a little desperate for Eminem's attention in the eyes of some consumers, as a response would likely garner a lot of publicity. Game was also criticized for his wishy-washy attitude towards Eminem, particularly when he started sending shots. He praised Eminem for years and suddenly decided to challenge him out of the blue after being left out of the Super Bowl performance. It probably didn't help either that Game was outright challenging M in what seemed to be a friendly manner, as it added to the appearance that he simply desired the rub that going against M would give him. On top of that, feuds are often not viewed as exciting when they're friendly or when they're one-sided, as was the case with this one. It was a feud that seemingly didn't help Game much, as it did not create enough of a buzz or move the needle significantly to garner much public interest or a response from his target. All along, Game's issue with Eminem was another ploy to seek approval from the people he came up with and idolized, namely Dr. Dre and Eminem. This was something that was evident from the first Game album, in which he name-dropped various hip-hop legends while he attempted to put himself in the same class as them. It's a theme that Game continued throughout the course of his career, and his omission from the Super Bowl performance may have possibly made him feel negated as being viewed as one of the West Coast greats, which ultimately hurt his feelings and caused him to act out by going at someone who helped him climb the ladder of success 20 years earlier.